Hello, welcome to the Combat Chat podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the just gone UFC London card as well as the upcoming UFC 291. I believe it's the second time Gage and Poirier have fought.
Yeah, we're in for a banger this week.
Definitely. So anyway, this weekend, I believe that you went to London.
Yeah, so me and a friend, we went to the O2, first UFC event we ever watched. The seats weren't the best. Obviously, it's very pricey to go. It was extortionate to be fair, but yeah, obviously being there, seeing Bruce Buffer, Michael Bisping, all the guys, it was just an insane experience.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I mean, I imagine it was a nice big TV as well.
Yeah, so we were sat quite high up in the arena, and literally just to our right was a massive screen. So anything we couldn't see happening in the octagon, we were looking right at it, just to the right of us. So it was a good seat, to be fair.
It's kind of what you need for it, really, because I feel like at an event like that, you're very, unless you've got those high tier
Mm.
top tickets, you're not seeing much of the octagon, are you really?
I mean, I think the best tickets were like over a K. So
Yeah,
yeah,
comfortably, you know what I
I'm
mean?
not getting that.
No, it's a big arena as well. What is it like?
Yeah, I actually don't know how much.
60,000 around that. It's got to
60,
be.
60.
Yeah, I reckon.
Nah, not the O2.
Nah, you don't reckon?
Nah, okay, 60 is like a
Maybe, yeah,
stadium.
yeah, that's like
Maybe like
Wembley, isn't it? Like,
Maybe like 15 most, I don't know.
nah, really? I thought it'd be a bit more, but
Yeah, I'm not sure, but either way, I don't know if Dana said it was sold out or not, but there was a lot of empty seats to be fair.
okay.
Like, maybe it's just the ticket prices, or maybe this card didn't have as much hype around it as the other previous UFC London ones, because
A lot of people who couldn't make it, maybe.
yeah, obviously Paddy Pimblett, a big star here in the UK. I think this was the first or second one he hasn't been on since he's joined the UFC, so. But yeah, the crowd was good. The fights, they started off slow in the prelims. We actually missed the first fight, which I was annoyed about because Filau, I think he got dropped 3 times in the first 4 minutes and came back and finished him all in the first round. So that fight must have been explosive. I still haven't gone back and watched it yet, which I need to do. The main card picked up a lot. There was some great fights. Obviously, Molly McCann didn't get a great win. Paul Craig looked good. We'll break down a few of the fights from last week's card. Which ones were like the standouts? I think maybe first, what did you think about the Paul Craig fight?
So I thought the Paul Craig fight was. To be fair, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I
Yeah.
didn't expect him to do as well as he did. He's a fighter which we see him do form a lot of finishes when he's, I suppose you could say, losing.
Mm.
You know, he's got a lot of them. He's got a lot of submissions from the back.
Yeah.
You know, when he's been on the back. So, but no, overall, I think it's a very dominant performance. He looked very, very good. I was very surprised as to how sharp he was with Paul Craig. One of the big concerns is that he looks static at times. He did not look static at all, though.
No,
He looked
his
full of energy.
stand up looked much better, didn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely so. And he was just very, very powerful going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the level of aggression.
Yeah.
It was unexpected, really. I don't think I would have called that at all. I don't think I did call it at all.
I think both went with Andre Muniz in that one.
Mm.
And Paul Craig, I mean, he got the takedown. He's obviously moving down to middleweight, so he said obviously the weight cut looked really good. He was in great shape. And he said that he gained an extra 27 pounds by the time of the fight. So that's like bringing him back up just above the light heavyweight limit. So he was massive in there. Obviously, the takedown that he got as well, just ran body locked and sprinted towards the other side of the octagon, managed to just wrestle him down. Some decent little exchanges on the ground before Paul Craig got the position to finish. As well, got the TKO this time and not the submission. What did you think of the ground exchanges?
I thought he looked very, very good on the ground with Paul Craig when he's taken to the ground or when he takes to the ground. He's not someone which you necessarily. He's a rare case because you see a lot of fighters who get into positions like he does,
Mm,
take it to the ground, and you think this isn't looking good.
mm.
Paul Craig, he's just so high level on the ground.
He scrambled his way out of some weird positions, doesn't he? Like the way they were just getting tangled up, and Paul Craig just rolled through, kept the dominant position, and started landing those shots. He really impressed me for this fight. Obviously, called out Bo Nickel, who's one of the best wrestlers we've seen coming out of American, the sort of college scene. And yeah, he thinks maybe if he can get Bo Nickel to the ground with the little experience he has, maybe he can submit him. So that'd be a massive fight.
That would be a really good fight. I mean, even if you don't get into the ground, his stand up just looks so good.
Hmm. Yeah, and we've seen Bo Nickel finish people quick in the stand up, but no one's really managed to. Bo Nickel hasn't had a fight that's lasted very long at all. I think he's only had 5 in his whole career. So fighting someone like Paul Craig, that experience, that's going to be a interesting one. I don't know if that one will happen next because it's kind of like low risk, no, sort of high risk, low reward. I'd say fighting someone like Paul Craig when you can kind of sort of not rush your career that much. You know, you can take a few easier fights and then jump into that top 15. So yeah, Paul Craig looked great, and we'll talk about, in my opinion, which is the fight of the night. Uh, it had everything in it. Both fighters dropping each other. Nathaniel Wood, Andre Philly, they produced a banger which really livened up the crowd because it was a little quiet until that point. Obviously, Paul Craig before livened us up as well.
So with this fight here, Andrew Philly, he comes in. I think he mentioned experience,
Mm,
and it's something which you can potentially attribute to a potential outcome, but you can't always.
mm,
And I think that Nathaniel Wood really, he was very impressive. It's known that he's a high level fighter.
mm.
He's not as if he's known as somebody who has that low standard of fighting, but I'm just beyond impressed with his performance. He's so fast. He's strong as
Yeah.
well.
Mm,
The strikes he throws, same as Muniz as well.
yeah.
I expected for Muniz to cause him a lot more issues on the feet,
Mm,
which he didn't. But overall, it's just very, very impressive. Very good all round as well.
yeah.
Just versatility, and it was a very, very impressive performance. But yeah, so with this fight, obviously, I said Philly. I thought he was gonna potentially cause a lot more issues.
He did hurt him
He did
bad,
hurt him bad. He did hurt him bad, but not as much as I thought he would.
to be honest. Yeah, I mean, Lerone Murphy picked on it. He said that he thinks Nathaniel Wood kind of walk into those shots, but I thought Nathaniel Wood would find those counter shots like he was and finish him a bit earlier. But Andre Philly showing his chin once again, stayed in when he did get hurt Nathaniel Wood bad at one point as well. Almost could have got him out of there. Nathaniel Wood using his great grappling to get out of the position, take the back of Philly, and then they sort of scrambled for a while. Um, but yeah, what a fight that was. It would be interesting because in featherweight now we can actually have 3 fighters moving into the top 15 if they get good fights with the next fight. Because we have obviously Arnold Allen, he's in the top 5. Liro Murphy, I think he's on a 6 fight win streak in the UFC, and now Nathaniel Wood as well. So that division is going to be stacked with English talent. So I'm excited to see how that goes in the future.
Definitely so. Definitely so.
Yeah, so now moving on, it was the co-main event. Not a lot to talk about here. We'll just quickly blast over these next two because they didn't last very long. Molly McCann, massive favourite going into that. It seemed like the UFC sort of cherry picked a win for this fight, but it did not. Storolenko did not have that in her plans. What performance for her, and you could see how much it meant after.
It's interesting though, not really, because I feel like Storolenko, she's obviously very much the underdog.
Mm.
I don't know. Do you know what the odds were?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it
I
was quite big.
it's just, you look at Storolenko, she's not had the strongest start to her
No.
UFC career. She's done not awfully,
Mm.
and I don't feel like you can necessarily say that she's had an awful MMA career. An awful. I mean, she hasn't had an awful MMA career at
She's
all.
got a lot of good
She's done
wins, not
very
in the
well
UFC.
outside of the UFC,
Yeah,
but she's
outside the
also
UFC.
quite new to the UFC as well in the grand scheme of things.
And she just went on a skid. I think now we'll see her kind of pick up a few more wins. Maybe not go on and become a ranked fighter, but maybe she could be. I mean, Molly McCann, her last fight was Erin Blanchfield, who looks like she could get a title shot next. So it's around that. It's around that she'll get a ranked sort of opponent, and then if she can win a couple more. So you never know, but it was a massive win for her. She impressed me. Obviously, getting the armbar again. That I think most of her submissions have come by armbar.
No, yeah, I know that she's very, very good with the armbar, and I feel like one of the things we said was if Storolenko does take her down, it could
Yeah,
be an armbar. This
very
could
quick.
be
Yeah,
what is going to potentially result in Molly McCann going away with the loss. So I think though Storolenko, like on the feet, it wasn't necessarily the most technical thing, but to run at someone like Molly McCann like that,
Yeah.
it's got to require guts because Molly McCann can lay you out
Yeah. We've seen it.
relatively comfortably. And she's got a lot on her feet, and to secure the takedown there early, I know that Molly wouldn't have wanted that at all.
No.
But there's not a lot you can stop do in that situation. She just went for it.
She kind of jumped into the armbar, which was a bit weird. I didn't think Storolenko had it, and then she kind of jumped over and gave her the angle to get it, which maybe she was just panicking straight. Cause
It'd have to be panic mode.
Yeah,
because I imagine that's something which they would have went over their head.
Yeah,
that armband, and when you're in that position that early on as well.
Yeah.
Because there's only about a minute in or so, wasn't it?
Imagine what's running through her head in London. She probably, that was the one thing she didn't want to happen, and it's happening straight away. Just a nightmare scenario for Molly McCann. I think she's moving down a weight class now, so we'll see where she goes from here. But not great for her career. And yeah, we'll go straight on to the main event quickly. Tom Aspinall just showing again how talented he is. Obviously called out John Jones. They've gone back and forth on Twitter a little bit. I think he plans to fight the winner of Spivak and Cyril Gane, but his performance, he dispatched his God, my mind's gone blank. The name. Tybora so quickly. Like, to beat a guy of that level that quick, it just shows what Tom Aspinall can do.
I think it's interesting because you said first round KO, I said second round KO. I did not anticipate whatsoever for that to be as quick as it was. I could potentially see it being first round, but the pace he put on instantly. Marcin Tybura, he's a very, very tough opponent. A lot of them have to be because they're taking massive blows.
For a heavyweight, he's dragged some killers into those later rounds and took some shots off some of the shots he was eating off Walt Harris in their fight. Just shows how tough he is.
Well, and that's the thing, and to think that Thomas Pinion was able to do that to him so quickly, I don't think you can necessarily put it down to Tybura being anything less than what he is. He's still a very high level fighter. I think Thomas Pinion, if you look at him, he's a lot faster than a lot of heavyweights.
Yeah, I think he's the fastest heavyweight. Him and Cyril Gane, but I think pure speed, he's the quickest heavyweight, in my opinion.
He moves these like 2 weight classes low.
Yeah, his footwork looked insane. It's crazy.
It's very much his evasiveness as well. He's a very evasive fighter.
Yeah.
Which I suppose, I mean, if all your fights are finishing in the first 5 minutes, then you don't need to be too evasive. Because
he needs to be careful the way he holds his chin up though, man. It was making me nervous. He has his chin in the air, and we spoke about that a little bit last week, but managed to dispatch Tybura quickly. We need to get into the next card because there's so much to talk about for this next week's card. Obviously, this card, as it always got legends, title contenders, ex-champions. This next card that we have on our hands is probably the best of the year, and we'll get it kicked off straight away. Michael Chiesa facing Kevin Holland. It's like your typical striker versus grappler matchup, but this one has potential to get finished either way. How do you see this fight going?
So this is an interesting one because Kevin Holland, yes, he's very good on the feet. He's not bad on the ground either.
No,
he's very strong on the ground, and Chiesa, he's very, very high level jiu-jitsu. I don't know much about his belt lineage.
He might be a black belt.
Yeah,
he will be.
So, but you look at what he has done on the ground. I know he fought Luque.
Yeah. I think he got subbed by Luque.
He did.
But yeah, obviously came into the welterweight division. I think he went on a 5-fight win streak, getting some decent subs along the way. Had a very good fight with Sean Brady. Him and Carlos Condit had a very entertaining grappling sort of match, and he managed to get the sub in that one too. So yeah, he's shown multiple times how dangerous he can be on the ground, and his stand up has got better. He's a bit static. I don't like his chances of in the stand up with Kevin Holland, but it's about if he can get him to the ground. How do you think he'll find sort of closing the distance, because Holland's reach is so long? How do you think he'll find it closing that distance and trying to get that takedown?
So it's going to be interesting. I feel like you watch a lot of Chiesa fights. The way he fights is that he's very good at using that jab to get in close, which sounds bizarre, but the way he backs you up to shoot for the takedown, it's not. He doesn't really telegraph it.
No.
He just shoots, and often it will land. On the feet, it's going to be a challenge. because of Kevin Holland's range, because of the range he can strike at. Although saying that, I could very much potentially see an early-ish takedown. I feel like a lot of these rounds are going to take place on the ground. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue because I feel like yes, fair enough. Collins has got that reach, he has got that distance management, which he may not have. I can very much see him just powering through it.
Yeah, and Chiesa, even though he might not have the reach, he walks around heavier than Kevin Holland, which is crazy to think about because Kevin Holland, he's coming down to this welterweight division, and Chiesa used to fight a lightweight. And to look at him now and think, how did that guy ever make 155?
He's very
just
stocky, isn't he? He's
yeah,
very
that's
stocky.
mental to me how he made that weight division. So he's the bigger guy. I think if he grabs hold of Kevin Holland, he has showed better takedown defense, but obviously fighting Hamzat Chimaev, it's hard to stop him taking you down no matter who you are. But it's sort of scrambled okay for the first minute until he got submitted. But yeah, I think on the ground, I don't think it will be easy for Chiesa, but I think if he gets there, I think he could eventually find the finish. But for me, it's just Kevin Holland. If he can keep it standing, I really think that he can find the finish here. I think that if my prediction for this fight, I'm gonna go second round TKO Kevin Holland. I think he might get taken down in the first, be put in some bad positions. I think he'll kind of finish him early in the second round. How do you think this one ends?
So I'm going to go with a second round submission Chiesa.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be a lot of groundwork. I think that Kevin Holland, I think he's going to do well on the ground. I think that because Chiesa, he's very good on the ground, so is Kevin Holland.
Yeah.
They're both very good, very high level grapplers. Obviously Kevin Holland was it Kung Fu fighter. You know,
Yeah.
didn't even know you were allowed to use that as a title. But no, I'm sure I wouldn't know anything about Kung Fu. So.
No, I mean, yeah, over here it's not. I mean, I'm sure it is a thing, but you don't see many fighters coming from that sort of background in
No, but
martial
Kevin
arts.
Holland does too.
Yeah.
It must be affected.
Yeah,
but,
I don't think he fights like a kung fu fighter though. I think
I wouldn't really know what it is, but I can't imagine it's what he fights like.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I think that Chiesa's going to do very well on the ground. I think it's going to be very interesting. I think going to be a lot of interesting transitions, scrambles, all sorts. Yeah. But I think Chiesa's going to secure. I'm going to go with. See, it's hard because he's so lanky, isn't he? Holland, he's such a gangly almost. So I'm gonna go submission. I'm not sure how.
I could see her rear naked.
That's what I'm thinking.
Scrambling, takes it back.
He's just so. I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, submission second round. I think there's gonna be a lot of groundwork on this one, so it should be good.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty 50-50 split on this one. I just think Kevin Holland will find it easier to find that shot on the feet than Chiesa might find it to submit him, but it could go either way, that one. There's got a great matchmaking on this card. Like, I mean, a lot of the fights are put together, they're going to be bangers. But going into the next one, obviously, I feel like we started this podcast as the sort of downfall of Tony Ferguson started to happen, which wasn't nice. We've covered a lot of his tough losses on this podcast, and he's obviously coming against Bobby Green, which Solly's made very clear it's his favourite fighter. I've made clear it's one of my favourite fighters. His fighting style, just pure boxing. I love the way he fights. The style matchup, I don't think is great for Tony Ferguson. I feel like even in his prime, he struggles with someone like Bobby Green, but obviously prime Tony, I think, would probably run through Bobby Green, but this is not the case anymore. Well, how would you feel about Tony's chances in this one? Do you think he can get his career back on track?
So, in all fairness, I don't feel like this is the worst matchup for Tony possible. We've seen some shocking matchups for him as of recent, and I think that Bobby Green, he's not an opponent in his prime anymore. You know, he's how old would you say he is roughly?
Yeah, Bobby Green's probably like 38 something. But I feel like he's still sharp. Like, he still looked really good in that Drew Dober fight before getting knocked out. Obviously fought Islam Makhachev, which is the champion now. So, but I feel like he hasn't got worse, and Tony's decline has been bad. But I don't know. How do you think Tony wins if he gets it done?
I mean, it has to be something like a decision.
Yeah.
If it goes
Maybe
that far,
maybe
that
if he
is.
can get Bobby Green to the ground.
Well,
Obviously, Tony's jiu-jitsu is very good. His wrestling's decent, but Bobby Green's takedown defense is very good as well.
it's the thing. I think it's going to be too hard to get into the ground.
Mm,
I really do. I think that like it's about his takedown defense as well. His takedown defense is so strong,
mm,
and I feel like with Bobby Green, obviously his boxing's very good. I think that Tony he's just not sharp enough
and
to
he's
cope with
just,
that.
I feel like he's just slowed down a lot as well. Like, he used to be able to push through with just his natural ability of just being an athlete and a insane cardio and his chin and just his power and pace. And that's all kind of declined now later in his career. So for me, it's really hard to see Tony Ferguson getting this one done. I think I don't know if Bobby Green finishes him, but I could see him finishing him as well. Bobby Green, he's sharp on the feet. He's got decent power, decent cardio as well. He's going to be popping Tony all day with jabs and straights, and he's going to be frustrating Tony, making him miss. Uh, what's your prediction for this one?
So this one, I'm gonna go Bobby Green third round KO
I'm actually going to go the same as well.
because you look at Bobby Green, he's very clean at his boxing. He's also an animal.
Yeah, he
He
loves to fight, doesn't he?
and I feel like I don't know if Tony's gonna be able to bring that dogfight.
I hope he can.
I so do I, but
Oh
I
man,
don't see it, and I feel like if he gets them backed up, Bobby Green gets them backed
yeah,
up.
start
That's
teeing
it.
off. Yeah, I feel that's how it plays out too. I think he'll be tagging for Tony a lot. Tony will be kind of clinching, trying to get away from the fast boxing combinations, and in the end, it will just add up, and he'll back Tony against the fence and just TKO him. I don't think he'll be a clean KO. It could, obviously. Nate Diaz didn't really tag Tony like hard, so he didn't really get to see his chin after that horrible Michael Chandler knockout. Um, so yeah, I mean Bobby Green, if Tony's chin really isn't there, Bobby Green will finish him in the first round. But I think Tony will still have some toughness left in him, take some shots, and I think Bobby Green will get it done in round three, which will be sad to see. It's been sad to see Tony's downfall on this side of this part of his career, considering how much of a beast he was earlier on in his days in like the Anthony Pettis and the Cerrone fights. So
It's one of those things. There's always that eventual
yeah, it
downfall.
always happens in the end, doesn't it? Um, moving on to the next fight, could be one of the fights of the night. It's a absolute banger. We got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson against Michel Pereira. Obviously, two really exciting strikers. It'll be a great matchup to see how this one plays out on the feet. I think Michel Pereira could get it to the ground, maybe, but I think Wonderboy's movement's going to be a bit too much. I think this one will play out stand up. And how do you think that goes?
So I think looking at Wonder Boy, it all comes down to his footwork,
Yeah,
really. I think that he's is such a high level. His movement in general and
mm,
his distance management as well.
yeah,
Looking at Wonder Boy, he's so good at striking from range, and he's also very good at fighting within their range.
mm, yeah,
And that's one of the things which makes him stand out. I think we look at him fight from their range. It's not if you're not fighting from your own range,
mm,
or if you're not dominating from your own range, it's not where you want to be. If you take them to the ground, could potentially be an issue. But at the same time, I think it's going to be very hard to even get into that proximity really.
mm,
And Wonderboy's leg kicks as well, such a useful tool
yeah,
at keeping him at bay. He's his technicality is so high level. His cardio as well.
yeah. You can just carry on after striking. He'll just carry on going. He's such a like committed athlete to the sport. He's always in the gym, always training. I mean, if you have to gas him out, you really have to make him fight a war, which I think Michel Pereira will struggle. I think if he does win this fight, it will be just kind of finding a shot in one of Wonderboy's blitzes. Pereira's got a very good straight. I think it's a straight right. Um, Knees up the middle as well. Obviously, when he joined the UFC, he was a wild man doing like backflips at people, just like flying knees off the cage and finished Danny Roberts. I think Superman punch jumped off the cage, flying kneed him. So he's just done. He's a wild man, and obviously we don't really see that part of him anymore. I think he's got to try and fight Wonderboy a bit more technical. Maybe he can't with his sort of kicks. I think he should mix in some of the crazy techniques he uses because Wonderboy's seen every fighting style in MMA. He's fought everyone to Woodley to Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad, all these guys, even Robert Whittaker. Like he's fought everyone. So I don't think Pereira can bring much he hasn't seen before. Um, so I think I think in this one, Wonderboy can really it's sort of a matchup where he can really just show what we all know him as to be, which is one of the best strikers in the UFC, and I think he can really show some of those techniques like he did against Kevin Holland, the wheel kicks. I mean, he looked for his age, he still looks so sharp in his last fight. So I think he can put a real pace. I think we're in for an exciting fight.
I definitely so. I think like you said about the whole world band thing. I think that looking at Wonder Boy, he's very much clued up on his opponents.
Mm,
First few weeks of his camps, it's what he's watching. He's
yeah,
watching footage of his opponents, and like you said, he's fought so many different opponents where he has seen it all. Really, maybe Michel Pereira needs to show him something he hasn't
yeah,
seen,
that's what I think too.
and I think that is kind of gonna be the way to go about it. I think Michel Pereira is a very dangerous opponent, but at the same time, Thompson's gonna know this, and his training. Obviously, he's got his YouTube channel
Yeah,
where he goes through his entire camp, and it's interesting because he goes into everything he's doing,
yeah.
which you look at and you think like,
I don't
should
think
you be broadcasting
I
that?
don't think he
Like,
cares anymore. Though. He's
no,
at
no,
a
no.
point in his career where he's like, everyone knows what I do.
But no, it's so interesting, just the specifics he goes into, and his preparation. Obviously, Michel Pereira's probably done the exact same amount of
Mm,
preparation, if not more. Who knows? But I think that Wonder Boy, his technique, his distance management, Pereira's gonna have a very very hard time unless he's in his face,
mm.
and I don't think he's
He's
gonna be
gonna
able to
get
do
there.
that,
Yeah,
or he takes it to the ground. I think it's gonna be a decision.
yeah. I agree. I think Wonderboy decision. I think he'll beat him up. I think it will be. I don't think Pereira will go out unscathed. I think he'll drop him a couple of times, hit him with some big kicks. Pereira's a tough guy. I think another thing to mention, which we haven't yet, is this is obviously the first card back at Salt Lake City since Leon Edwards won the belt, and we saw on that card how many people gassed out. Um, Obviously Tybura fought Romanov and Romanov gassed hard. Jose Aldo really struggled in his fight against Marab. Leon Edwards after the first round looked completely depleted. So all these fighters fighting at elevation. I think Wonderboy that will favour Wonderboy a lot. We've seen Michel Pereira gas out if he does use those wild techniques, which I think he'll add a little bit more. I still don't think he'll go crazy like he did, but I think he'll look for those flying knees and the sort of like jumping switch kicks and wheel kicks and stuff. Wonderboy has all that too, so it's going to be exciting. But I think Michel Pereira will struggle with the elevation. He'll gas out, and I think Wonderboy will put it on him and win quite a comfortable decision.
It would be very interesting. It'd be interesting to know about as well about how these fighters have been preparing for this
Mm. A lot of them,
altitude.
a lot of them have literally just said, "Oh, we'd come out 2 weeks in advance to get used to it." Like they think 2 weeks is enough to get used to that elevation, which was a lot of the fighters' mistakes on the last card as well here. So,
No, it's the people who spend weeks up in these mountains.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Just
Justin Gaethje trains here, not here, but he trains at elevation. So, Poirier only came out 2 weeks before. Blachowicz only came out 2 weeks before.
it might adjust you. I know with altitude as well. I'm not sure exactly how. I think it's something to do with your oxygen uptake.
Yeah,
But I know that training at elevation
elevation.
definitely does have some benefits when it comes down to your VO2 max.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
increases, it increases your cardio substantially
Mm.
to an extent in which you just wouldn't be able to
Yeah, I mean,
get close to that sea level. So
I think it was Gaethje who said he used to gas out in fights and then he started training at elevation and when he fights at sea level now he just feels like so comfortable in there now because the difference in training that high feet in the above air above sea level to that far down it makes a massive difference.
I know in places like London, mate, you can go to clinics where you spend a week there, and basically they put you in like altitude rooms and you cook you up to altitude equipment,
Well,
like not like
there's companies now that you Dustin Poirier has a mask that he sleeps with and helps with that. Yeah, there's loads of things that you can do. So maybe a lot of fighters are using that. But yeah, I think Wonderboy takes this fight decision. I think you're going the same, aren't you?
Decision, yeah, Wonder Boy.
Yeah. So we'll get straight off kicked off with the next fight. We have the co-main event, which I'm so excited for. Jan Blachowicz against Alex Pereira. How do you see this one playing out?
So it's going to be interesting. I think Pereira, obviously, he's just came off of a pretty brutal knockout.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know how much we can use that to judge how we're going to go into this one. Obviously, he's fighting heavier,
Mm.
which is going to be very very interesting to see. Maybe it will be a lot more comfortable for him.
Yeah,
You don't
weight
think
cut.
so?
He had a brutal weight cut to middleweight.
He's a big person.
Mm.
He's a big guy. So with this one, it's quite hard to call. Looking at Blahovich's last fight, it wasn't a super impressive performance. He looked good, but it wasn't as
Yeah.
a performance in which you look at and think to yourself, all right.
I think the fight kind of. I mean, it wasn't a terrible fight, but I mean, both from both sides, it wasn't a great fight.
Oh yeah, no, definitely so. I mean, it was scored as a draw, which I think is very fair.
Yeah, yeah. I think if anyone would have won, it would have been Ankalaev, but he got chewed up so bad at the start with Blahovic's leg kicks. I mean, I was happy with the draw too.
It's the thing though. So with this fight, Blahovic at times he does appear static. I don't think he's as static as he looks. His head movement isn't amazing.
I would say he's one of the slower 205ers in like at that top level. I think there's a lot of fighters who move a lot better than him.
But with Blahovic, I feel like we look at Pereira against Strickland. I obviously you can't compare Pereira and Strickland because it's just not a fair comparison whatsoever. But with Strickland, he was very static, and Pereira was really able to capitalize on that very early
I
on.
feel like Blachowicz sort of boxing style is actually quite a little bit similar to Strickland's as well. The way he stands up tall, likes to pump the jab out, not loads of footwork. So yeah, do see your point with that.
But I'm talking more than the skill level. But I think with Blahovic, his leg kicks is very much a cause for concern. We look at Pereira. With Pereira, I think that a lot of what it actually is that he had a harder time when fighters are active against him, when fighters are actively fighting with him, more so in the sense that rather than just walking towards him or being generally. And if there's one thing about Blahovic, he might be a little bit slower, but he is very active at the same time.
He looks to damage you at every moment with the leg kicks and the body kicks as well.
And I think that this is one of the things looking at Pereira. He's gonna have a hard time with that. Pereira, he's got a very good arsenal, but after his recent fight, I mean, Blahovic it's a very tough opponent to be fighting at, to go from middleweight to like heavyweight. Yeah, fair enough. It might be a more appropriate and more suitable weight class for him. But it's a very high level opponent, a very experienced opponent in the UFC as well.
Fighting one of the top guys at light heavyweight.
I think Pereira though, it would be interesting to see how his kickboxing plays out.
Yeah.
And with Blahovic, something you have to be cautious of is his wrestling. And if he gets you to the ground, you could be in a lot of trouble very quickly. So in regards to this one, I don't know who to call. I could potentially see Blahovic finishing him, but at the same time, I also think Pereira could really turn up. And it's going to be interesting to see how sharp he is, how much faster he is, how much more energized he is.
Yeah, I mean this one is a pick'em for me. I think Blahovic has been saying he wants to try and stand and test his striking, which I think he is a very high level striker, but I think a lot of the weapons he uses, Alex Pereira can just nullify, like the leg kicks. I think Pereira kicks a little bit better than him, maybe. I mean, it's close. The left hook, obviously Glover Teixeira took the belt off Jan Blachowicz, who trains Alex Pereira now. And the game plan was very heavy, very heavily look for that big left hook because he does drop his right hand when he throws those kicks. Alex Pereira's put out a lot of sparring footage in this camp, dropping people with a left hook to the body all the time in the sparring, and obviously he can take that upstairs as well. He's got probably the most devastating left hook I've ever seen, and I'm a massive fan of boxing, MMA, like pound for pound. His left hook is one of the most dangerous weapons on this planet, and I think that could be a path to victory for him, landing to the body maybe or the head. But like you said, if Jan Blachowicz does get this to the ground, it could be over very quickly. What's your prediction for this one?
So it's a really, really hard but it's cool. As far as prediction is concerned, I'm gonna go with Blachowicz third round.
Mm.
I think that he's gonna get into the ground eventually. I think, in fairness, I could potentially see Pereira laying him out.
Mm.
It's a possibility. I don't think that it's super likely, but I think that it's
I
definitely a
think
possibility.
it could be likely.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
It's his head kicks on it really.
Mm.
You know, he's just he. I don't feel like it's gonna happen in Madeira. I've just got this feeling.
Yeah.
I think that Blachowicz, he's gonna land a few takedowns. I think Pereira's gonna survive a few of them. Although to be fair, Blachowicz isn't someone you're gonna want to be on the ground with at all.
But to be fair, I think sometimes he can. Sometimes he can concentrate very much on the position instead of like doing big damage, like we saw against Adesanya when Adesanya moved up and tried to fight him. He kind of just he struck with him for a while and then got him down to held position. Um, but I think Alex Pereira, you're going to need to make him work at this high elevation, make him work, do damage. Otherwise, every fight starts on the feet, and he's so dangerous that he could catch Blachowicz at any point in the fight and finish him. We saw with Izzy, even if there is wrestling exchanges and he's down on the scorecards, he can win at any point still. So I think with this one, I'm going to agree with you. I think Blachowicz will get it done. I think actually, I don't know. In my head, I can just see Alex Pereira finishing him. But my brain just tells me that I should go with Jan Blachowicz because the experience and the grappling. But I think I'm going to change my mind. I've been saying Blachowicz this whole time, but I think the last minute pick, I'm going to go Pereira and I'm going to go second round TKO. I think he'll find that left hook to the body. Obviously, it could go the other way very easily. He could just find those takedowns and um, dominate him there, but I just have a feeling that Pereira's going to find that shot and put him away. So, yeah, I think that's another different opinion on how that's going to go, but I'm not really sure, to be fair. These fights are so good. I mean, I think a lot of these fights, whoever wins, it will be in a sort of dominant way, but it's just who can imply their game plan, really, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely so, definitely so.
So getting into the main event, obviously an absolute banger we've got on our hands. These guys fought 5 years ago now. Put on one of the best sort of fights we've seen in the UFC, and we can just expect the same again from these two. Every time they get in there, it's an absolute war. Both coming off good wins. Dustin Poirier looking decent against Michael Chandler. He did get hurt in that fight. I think it was a headbutt that started it though. And obviously Dustin Poirier Justin Gaethje looking as good as he did against Fiziev on the feet is crazy impressive. I thought Fiziev was gonna finish Justin Gaethje, but yeah, Justin Gaethje looked insane in that one. So how excited are you for this rematch? I've been waiting for it for so long.
I think that this is going to be an excellent fight. I could see it very much playing out just like I did last time. That's going to be a dogfight. I mean, both two very, very good stand-up fighters. Both like fighting in the pocket. I can't see this being anything other than a war.
Me too.
And I can't see it. I mean, it's championship rounds. Like, it's five. It's hard to go like that for 5 rounds.
For
but
the BMF title.
well, I
Weird
mean,
one.
yeah, but maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I think regardless if this is gonna be an absolutely amazing fight, it's really hard to call because they're both just so good, and the way they strike with the accuracy and just the intensity, you don't want to get hit by either of them.
Mm.
This is staying on the feet.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way it's not. I
I
might
think
be quite surprised if it
I
wins
think
the round, but
Gaethje obviously has a bit of a wrestling advantage, but Gaethje's jiu-jitsu is so bad that I
uh,
think he'll just want to keep it standing.
do you think though that even with wrestling he's gonna want to take it to the
Nah,
round?
I don't.
Because for something like this, like
Maybe like at the end of the round, sort of just maybe as a mental thing, like we saw against Fazeev, he did take him down, tried to take him down once. I think it was the second round, then took him down in the third at the end. So it is, I think those were his first takedowns in the UFC, which is crazy. Um, but overall, I think Justin Gaethje has probably improved overall a bit more than Dustin Poirier since that last fight. I think his footwork is so much better now. Against Fazeev, he was always moving. Such a hard target to find now because obviously his head movement's never really been there. But now he can use his feet. I think Trevor Whitman's implanted that into him. And his uppercuts, his accuracy on his shots, his jabs. He's much better at fighting from distance than he was when they last fought. Poirier has kind of just tuned everything he does. His counter punching's a bit better. His head movement. We're in for a banger of a fight. Yeah, I think Poirier's going to struggle when it's not in the pocket. I think Poirier's got a big advantage in the pocket. Gaethje's going to be slamming those leg kicks again like he was, really hurting Poirier's legs in that first fight. Um, how do you think it kind of plays out when they're at range, and how do you think Poirier's going to find it making them fight in the pocket and trying to avoid that real leg damage and finding his own shots?
it's one of those things like with Gaethje, there's only so much damage you can try to avoid,
Hmm.
and there's only so much
Yeah.
which you can actually avoid at all. Really, I think that this is a fight which Poirier's gonna want to be fighting in the pocket,
Hmm.
and I think he's gonna be making it there. I think he's gonna get his legs battered in the
Yeah.
process of doing so.
I think he even knows
I I,
that.
I think he but overall I can just I don't see this one having anything other than just action constantly.
I
This is gonna
cannot
be
wait.
strike after strike, constant,
Battering each other.
heavy strikes as well.
Yeah.
The way these guys throw him, especially Gaethje.
Yeah, I mean, both of them just swing with everything. Gaethje sometimes will fall over. If he'll miss the left hook, he'll swing it so hard, his momentum will make him fall over. So yeah, he puts everything behind his shots.
I mean, it's a really hard one to call. It's really hard to call. I'm gonna go Poirier.
How do you think he does it?
I mean, I think it's gonna be a KO. Just a KOT here.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's gonna be later rounds.
I think for me, I think it will happen in the same round as it did in the last one. I think it was sort of later in the third round. I think the fight will go similar. I think Poirier will get hurt more. Like Gaethje did rock him a bit in the last one, but I think Poirier will get a lot more damage in the boxing combinations, not just with the leg kicks. But I think Poirier will just has that style to find those shots on Gaethje. Gaethje opens up, kicking the inside of Poirier's front leg, which leaves him open for the straight. I think straight left or right every time, and I think that will still be there. I think it will be a similar sort of sequence that he'll hurt Gaethje, and I think he'll put him away quite similar to the way he did last time. I think it'll be obviously not more of a competitive fight. I think Gaethje will be winning more clearly until the finish happens. I think Gaethje will be winning the fight until Poirier finishes him.
From a damage perspective, do you think
Yeah, I
or
think he'll just be landing more, even with the jabs and the uppercuts. Poirier, the uppercut, he could finish Poirier. Like Poirier's so tough, but Gaethje, he's added that uppercut into his game, and it does so much damage. Look at Perceived face at the end of that 3 round fight. And if this fight goes into those fourth, fifth championship rounds, and Gaethje's still there, Poirier's leg has been taking damage for that long. Like he could finish Poirier in the sort of later, maybe fifth round. I think Poirier's going to find the chin and end it after that being down on the scorecard and being beat up quite badly.
yeah, no, I'd have to agree.
Yeah,
I think they're both gonna get beaten up.
yeah,
Sadly,
definitely.
I really do. I don't think there's anything away. I'm gonna go third round.
Yeah, same.
Third round, yeah. I can't see it
I
lasting much
think
longer than that. I mean,
fight of the
it could
year.
though.
I think it could too. They're both so hard to put away. I hope it's just 5 rounds. Imagine if these guys go for a 5 round decision. It will be one of the best fights in UFC history if they
Mm.
can. I hope it goes long. I think Poirier is probably a bit harder to put away than Gaethje. But Poirier, I don't know how motivated he is now. Obviously, he's lost 3 title fights. Gaethje really seemed motivated to get that other one. Poirier's made that Conor McGregor money now, so we'll see how that plays into it. Again, Poirier doesn't train at elevation. Gaethje does. There's a lot of factors that could play into this fight, and it could go either way. I just think Poirier's just too sharp for him. That's how I think it's going to look in the end. So yeah, that's our thoughts on this one. So yeah, that's been this week's podcast. Thanks for listening. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Again, we'll be slamming the YouTube at some point soon. So yeah, thanks for listening.